Okay, so now we're going to finish up our calculations by calculating the final velocity for the table, the porch, and the stadium. And so we're going to go to the second page here. Don't forget to put your pictures that you took of the table, your container, and the distance that it was dropping here, the one for the porch here, and the one for the stadium here. Okay, so we're going to start off calculating our final velocity for the table. Okay, so our given, our initial velocity, we have 0. So we're going to record that right there. G is 9.8 meters per second squared. And our time for the drop was 0.5 seconds. Our unknown is our final velocity. And again, once we calculate this, we're going to put it in this square here in the table. Our equation that we're going to use is final velocity is equal to initial velocity plus g, acceleration of gravity, times time. Okay, so we're going to substitute our givens here into the equation. So final velocity is equal to initial velocity, which is 0, plus g, which is 9.8, times our time, which is 0.5. Okay, so after we calculate that, we see that we get 4.9 meters per second. That was our final velocity for the drop from the table. So we're going to record that in our table here, 4.9 meters per second. Okay, now we're going to calculate the final velocity for the drop from the porch. And so we look at our table to get our givens. Again, don't forget to put your picture here. Initial velocity from the porch was 0. G is also, again, 9.8 meters per second squared. And our time for the drop from the porch, 0.67. Our unknown is final velocity. Okay. And the equation, we're going to use the same equation. Final velocity is equal to initial velocity plus acceleration of gravity times time. We go to the substitution. Final velocity is equal to our initial velocity, which from our given was 0, plus g, which is 9.8, times our time, which was 0.67. Okay, so we calculate that and we find that our final velocity is 6.6 meters per second. And we're going to take that number and record it up here in the table. Okay, so 6.6 meters per second. Okay, now for the drop from the stadium, we're going to calculate our final velocity there. So again, don't forget to put your picture here of your container and the stadium. And so our initial velocity is 0. G is 9.8 meters per second squared. And our time for the drop from the stadium was 1.29 seconds. Our unknown is our final velocity. Our equation is final velocity is equal to initial velocity plus g times t. Then we're going to substitute in the numbers in our given into our equation here. And so we have final velocity is equal to 0 plus 9.8 times 1.29. And when we calculate that, we find that our final velocity is 12.6 meters per second. And now that we've calculated that, we're going to put that up here in our table, 12.6 meters per second.